Our group topic was hypoxia and erythropoiesis. The members in our group were Molly Hughes, Kevin Wackenhauer, Christina McCoy, and Andrew Ward. So hypoxia is a pathological condition in which the body as a whole or a region of the body is deprived of an adequate oxygen supply. When the entire body is deprived of oxygen, it's called generalized hypoxia, but when only a region of the body is deprived of oxygen, it's called tissue anoxia. Anoxia is technically defined as a complete deprivation of oxygen supply. A mismatch between oxygen supply and its demand at the cellular level may result in a hypoxic condition. In humans, hypoxia is detected by chemoreceptors and the carotid artery. Variations of arterial oxygen concentrations can be part of the normal physiology. Some examples of hypoxia include strenuous physical activity. It can also occur in healthy individuals when they ascend to high altitudes. This is more commonly known as altitude sickness. Another example would be a person diving. Divers will be breathing mixtures of gases with a very low oxygen content. Some athletes also induce hypoxia to help with their performance. This is a mild and non-damaging intermittent hypoxia that is intentionally induced during altitude training to develop a performance adaptation at both the systemic and cellular level. So some signs and symptoms of generalized hypoxia depend on its severity and acceleration of onset. People can have headaches, shortness of breath, or nausea. Some might feel fatigued while others have a feeling of euphoria. In severe hypoxia or hypoxic of rapid onset, changes in levels of consciousness, seizures, coma, and even death might occur.
If you break down the word hemipoiesis, hemo refers to blood cells and poiesis refers to the development or production of. This means the production and development of all blood cells including erythrocytes, lymphocytes, granulocytes, megakaryocytes, and macrophages. Erythropoiesis refers just to the production of red blood cells. Production of red blood cells starts in the yolk sac at 6 to 7 weeks of life. It occurs in the fetal liver and spleen between the 12th and 28th week and continues in the bone marrow until young adulthood and beyond. In children, production occurs in both the axial and appendicular bone marrow of the skeleton, while adults tend to just have production in the axial bone marrow. Red blood cells circulate for about 100 to 120 days in the body before their components are recycled by macrophages. Mature red blood cells are oval, flexible, biconcave discs that lack a cell nucleus and most organelles. Their shape and lack of nucleus increase the surface area and allow maximal space for hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is an iron-containing biomolecule that can bind oxygen and is responsible for the blood's color. The transportation of O2 and pH regulation are the main functions of the cell. The production of red blood cells is under the influence of erythropoietin. In response to an oxygen deficiency, such as high altitudes, erythropoietin secretion increases. This stimulates a large number of red blood cells to be produced, and the fraction of reticulocytes, which are young erythrocytes in the blood, rises. 90% of erythropoietin is made by the kidneys and 10% by the liver. The process of erythropoiesis starts in the red bone marrow with a precursor called the proerythroblast. The proerythroblast divides several times, producing cells that begin to synthesize hemoglobin. Ultimately, a cell near the end of the development cycle ejects its nucleus and becomes a reticulocyte. Loss of the nucleus causes the center of the cell to indent, producing red blood cells, distinctive biconcave shape. An adequate supply of iron, folate, and B12 is needed for erythropoiesis to occur. Red blood cell production can also be influenced by thyroxine, testosterone, and growth hormones. This chart is just an overview of how hypoxia influences red blood cell production. It is showing that if you have a decreased availability of oxygen in the blood, either due to increased tissue damage or decreased red blood cell count, one would be considered hypoxic. This is going to stimulate the kidney to release erythropoietin. The increased amount of erythropoietin will act on the red bone marrow to enhance erythropoiesis or red blood cell production. The increased amount of red blood cells will increase the oxygen carrying ability of the blood to help someone return to normal blood oxygen levels. And that concludes our multimedia project.